هو واحد من أكثر الأحزاب يمينية وتطرفا في واحد من أكثر بلدان العالم انفتاحا. حزب الديمقراطيين السويدي حزب يدعو إلى وضع حد لمجتمع متعدد الثقافات وإلى وضع أسلاك شائكة أمام المهاجرين. في عالم متناقض تترسخ فيه قيم العولمة وتتسع فيه المسافة في الوقت ذاته بين الشرق والغرب، يؤمن هذا الحزب وفقا لإحدى الصحف بأن أكبر خطر يتهدد السويد هو الإسلام.
That's not correct actually. It's from an article that was published in one of our largest newspapers called Aftonbladet. And the newspaper itself put a headline there saying that the biggest threat to Sweden is the Muslims. But what he actually said and what we put in our headline that we sent into the newspaper was that the Swedish society, the adjustment of the Swedish society to Islam is the biggest threat to our future.
Why didn't you take the newspaper to court in this case?
It's very hard in Sweden to make a newspaper to change the
this is harmful to your party, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But we, in television programs, in other articles, we have stated this over and over again that we didn't put the headline there, the Aftonbladet put the headline there. We never pointed finger at Muslims as people.
Okay.
But we are very critical of Islam as an religion and an ideology.
So you completely, utterly distant yourself away from any call to isolate the Muslims or to think of the Muslims as a threat to Sweden.
We don't think as Muslims as individuals as a threat, but we see the Islamization of the Swedish society as a threat to our way of life.
What do you mean by Islamization?
The adjustment of the Swedish society to the religion of Islam or the political ideology of Islam. We see that as a threat to our culture and to our way of life.
Say, for instance, a Swedish who is Christian wanted to convert to Islam. Would that qualify in your definition as Islamization of Sweden?
No, we have freedom of religion. We are very much in favor of freedom of religion. So that's the choice of the individual. We don't want the Swedish society to change or to adjust to the demands from Islamic groups. That's our main issue here. For example, it may seem trivial, but for several hundred years in Sweden we have when the kids quit school in the summer and they go on summer holiday, all the kids and all the parents, they gather in church and they sing traditional songs which are very important to many Swedes, very emotional. But in many parts of Sweden you can't do that anymore because Muslims feel offended. Muslim students, Muslim parents feel offended that we go to church and you sing these songs, so they quit. So now many Swedish children won't be able to experience this tradition which their father and grandfather experienced, and we think that's very sad. And there's many examples like that the Swedish society is changing and shifting, and that we are in some way our culture is getting weaker. And we think that's sad. And
the presence of immigrants, especially Muslim immigrants, is a threat to the Swedish culture.
We feel that the Muslim minority makes more demands on changes in the Swedish society than other groups do, unfortunately. Not everybody, but in speaking in general terms.
And how do you propose to the public in Sweden and to the government, and indeed to yourself, should you rule Sweden one day, how do you propose to address this issue?
We want to restrict immigration, that's our main demand, and we also want to stop this adjustment. We feel that refugees, for example, should be welcome here. Refugees who are in need of protection under the Geneva Convention. But when they come here, we must tell them that now you have come to Sweden. This is a very old country with an old culture, which is very important to us. And if you want to live here for the rest of your life, you have to adjust to our way of life. and you have to leave some of
Well,
your old
do you
cultural
want
traits.
them? Do you want
norms.
them to abandon their own culture and maybe also their own religious belief?
In the aspect of the official society, yes. We don't want to forbid people to celebrate different holidays with their family at home or go to the mosque or whatever. But when it comes to demands on how the official Swedish society should work, yes, we feel that Swedish culture should be superior.
In that sense, would you oppose Muslim women in Sweden to wear the hijab in the streets?
No.
No?
So that's under the freedom of religion.
All right. How about a Muslim who, during the Hajj period, there's a tradition to slaughter sheep?
We're against that.
You're against that?
We're not against slaughtering sheep, but we're against the traditional way of halal slaughter, because we feel that that is in conflict with how we treat animals in Sweden. You have to make sure that the animal doesn't suffer first, so they have to be unconscious before you kill them.
But in Islam it says this is the most merciful way of killing a sheep, and there are strict and very clear instructions to kill the animal quickly and make it not suffer during that. That's already there in Islam.
I don't agree.
What can you
there are studies made on this issue here in Sweden, which shows that sometimes it can take up to 5 minutes before the animal dies, because even if you cut the throat, much of the blood supply to the brain goes through the neck. So the animal is still alive, and it feels panic and it feels anxiety. And that's why also almost every veterinarian in Sweden are also opposed to traditional ritual halal slaughter.
Right. Did you try to establish a debate on issues like this?
Yes.
With leaders of the Muslim community here to arrive at, something together?
Yes, of course. We debate these kind of issues with everybody who wants to debate with us.
Did you get in touch? I'm asking about if it actually happened. Did you get in touch with leaders of the Muslim community to talk to them about your concerns?
I personally have not debated this issue with representatives of the Muslim minority, but other people from my party have these kind of discussions in television and other places.
Mm-hmm. Some people look at your party as one of the most extreme right-wing parties in Europe, particularly in Western Europe, and they link you to other right-wing parties in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Britain, and indeed in other Western countries. Are you part of this a bigger Western European right-wing movement, or do you only restrict yourself to the politics of Sweden?
What is extreme is, I think, in the eye of the beholder. We don't consider ourselves as an extremist party in any way. And we are not extreme if you look at what the normal Swedish people think in these issues. We represent the majority concerning the view on immigration, the view on the Swedish culture versus immigrant cultures and things like that. And our policies are not extreme if you look at our neighboring countries either. The proposals we have concerning,
these are not my
concerning immigration.
I'm sorry, but
we want to have the same levels of immigration as Denmark and Finland have.
yeah, but I'm sorry,
and
but
no one is calling Denmark and Finland for extremist countries.
These are not my words. These are the words of people
Yes, I understand.
in the street. Not only including Muslims, but indeed Swedish people.
Yes, of course we have people who oppose us. Every political party have opponents among the Swedes as well, of course. But we don't consider ourselves extremists, and I think that's an unfair accusation. We are not extreme if you look at what the people think. We are not extreme in regard to what our neighboring countries.
Okay. When you say on your website, keep Sweden's independence, stop the development of multicultural society.
Yes.
You are calling for the stoppage of the development of multicultural society.
Yes.
What's the alternative? People being put in front of each other. Any society has minorities, right?
Yes, they have.
You don't want any minorities to be part
of the Swedish society?
Yes, quite opposite. We want the minorities to be a part of the Swedish society. We want them to become Swedes. We want them to be a part of our Swedish national identity.
Do they
we want
have
them to see themselves as Swedes.
Do
in
they
the long
have
term.
to, before they do this, do they have to look like yourself? Do they have
No,
to
they
have
can never look like me.
blue eyes and blonde hair? Do they have to?
That doesn't matter how you look. The things that matters are how you think and how you act. If you obey our laws, if you are willing to adapt to our culture and to our social norms and the code system and things like that.
Mm.
And if you do that, and if you are loyal to Sweden, we consider you as a Swede, and that's our goal. We want immigrants who come to Sweden. We want at least their children. We want them to feel Swedish and to be a part of the Swedish national identity and be a part of the Swedish culture. So we want to include them. We don't want them to be a minority, to be excluded for several hundred years.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think that's a good solution.
You haven't answered my question about being part of a wider right-wing movement in Western Europe.
We are not part of any.
You say at the end of, on your website, in your literature, say at the end of one of your paper, patriots of the world unite.
Yes. We want
of the world.
We want
only
a
in Sweden.
multicultural world.
Mm.
We want Egypt to stay Egyptian. We want Italy to stay Italian. And we want Sweden to stay Swedish. Because
so you want everybody to stay the way they are. They do not interact with the rest. You're living in the.
We're very much in favor of interaction and to global trade, to people going abroad studying and things like that. What we don't want is that the countries change completely to be something else. We don't want a world where all countries have the core culture is Coca-Cola and McDonald's, because I think that is maybe where we're going. If we don't value our history, our traditions, what makes us special as a nation and as a people.
The fact that Sweden has now nearly 1 million Muslims, whereas the whole population of Sweden is about 10 million, which is, by any standard, a very high percentage.
Yes.
How much does it worry you?
It worries me quite a lot, actually, yes. But what worries me even more is that the ruling class in Sweden, they want to make adjustments to all these immigrant groups. It's not only Muslims, it's other groups as well. And they are saying in some sense that